So today we are here to discuss about the virtualization and the cloud computing. What is the role of virtualization in cloud computing and how virtualization evolved to the cloud computing. So the very first thing, what is the definition of virtualization? Virtualization is the availability to run multiple environments, to run multiple operating systems on a single physical server. Now imagine you have a huge server of a huge database or a huge infrastructure is there, and the hardware requirements is very high. So you can create a lot of servers, small servers, using the virtualization concept, and it will help you to have a complete like overall high availability of the servers is there. You can optimal utilization of the resources are also there. So these are some of the benefits of having the virtualization. Now this is the virtualization architecture. We have a physical box. On top of that we keep the hypervisors like Zen, KVM, VMware is there, and using those particular hypervisors we manages this virtual machines. Now this virtual machines will not be totally different part. It will be like having a machine or a small server which is having a guest operating system, and on top of that we will be running some application. So this is a basic or generic architecture of virtualization here, or the whole overall of virtualization. Now we talk about Zen, KVM and hypervisor and VMware. What exactly is hypervisor? Hypervisor is a machine manager, or you can also say it as it manages the virtual machines on the host machine, and it is also the software which is only installed on the physical server. Now this is the single point of view, point of contact where all the virtual machine interact to get the resources, and hypervisor helps to get the system calls transferred to the actual hardware. So from the virtual hardware to the actual hardware, the hypervisor will be doing all the resource sharing, allocation and all those things. So it is a manager, a master manager for all the machines here. And also we can create or delete the machines using this hypervisor here. So it's a very good option here to manage all the resources, and it's one of the due to these benefits only we are basically using this hypervisor, and it basically manages all the services. Now benefit of utilization is, as I told you, that we can run separate virtual machines without hampering or without installing anything on the host machine. We can have whatever the service is running on one server on one virtual machine will not impact the other, or it cannot directly impact the other virtual machine. So we can also have a optimal utilization of the resources. We can have the cost reduction, because rather than going for multiple servers with huge infrastructure, we are going with a huge infrastructure with the multiple virtual machines. So these are some benefits of virtualization. Okay, so again Zen is nothing but same hypervisor is there, and all the hypervisors will interact in the same way. So we have hardware here, we have then Zen is there, who is having the virtual CPU, memory, network, everything virtual only, and on top of that there are a lot of services will be there, and these services are nothing but different host machines are there. The guest operating systems are running in the form of virtual machine, and then we will be installing some user software on these virtual machines. So this is how the basic architecture of virtualization works. Now there are certain we say that hypervisor does all the things. So being that particular behavior of hypervisor, it is very difficult also in case we got some hacked on the hypervisor level, or we are having some vulnerabilities in the hypervisor. So if somebody is doing some hacking in one of the virtual machine, or some kind of software is hacked, or it's malicious software is there, so it can interact with the hypervisor, because virtual machine interact with the hypervisor, right? So all the operations are doing by the hypervisor only. So if I gets connected to the hypervisor, because we know that whatever the request I will be sending will be processed by hypervisor only, so it can give you the control of any other virtual machine, or it can help you to connect to any virtual machine, because you get hold of the hypervisor. So the point is, hypervisor is a software and it can be hacked also, so it's became very difficult in case it's hacked to manage all the virtual machines. So that is the reason why, being a lot of advantages of hypervisor, there was a discussion that how we can eradicate this one, or how we can manage the infrastructure without having this hypervisor. So the software was good, it was doing very well in the market, but then they started evolving with a lot of hacks being done, and due to threats they started evolving it, thinking about a better option. So there is when we called a concept called no hyper comes into the market, where we don't have directly the hypervisor here, right? So the operating system, the virtual machine, every concept is still there, but the thing is we have basically removed this hypervisor. Now that is the reason why we have a cloud computing concept, in which is nothing but a virtualization only, but it's not having any hypervisor here, because if you're providing a cloud computing service over the public, anybody can hack you, right? And with this particular kind of loophole in this your system, the hypervisor can be hacked, and a lot of servers will be impacted. So for having the cloud computing and providing a cloud offering, they basically removed this whole concept of hypervisor here. Now the role of hypervisor is like isolating or emulating the resources. They provide the hardware allocation as per the requirement. They give the networking requirements also, and it's basically used for manage the virtual machine. Now if we remove the hypervisor, what are the different things we have to do? Now we know that scheduling of virtual machines can be done by hypervisor, but if we can hard code that, okay, only one VM per core can be allocated, or if there are 20 cores in my system, so only 20 virtual machines can be allocated. So these kind of we have, if a kind of restriction if we put, so we can easily remove the hypervisor, because all these things were doing by the hypervisor only making sure that each VM should take one core. So if it is hard coded that we need to have only one VM per core, so definitely there will be no requirement of hypervisor. Now second thing is managing memory. Then we also say that, okay, if hypervisor manages the memory also, but if we allocate a pre-allocated memory with the processor, so in that case if processor is having a support of 2 GB RAM, so it will not take above 2 GB RAM, right? So earlier hypervisor restricting do the restriction that you can use only 2 GB RAM. So these kind of automation if we are doing, we are basically removing the hypervisor. And then again the managing of IOs, because that is also one of the tasks being done by hypervisor. So it's saying that you can have a direct access to the virtualized devices, so you can directly manage the virtualized devices, so you don't have to go through a hypervisor to manage this virtual IO devices. So that is also one of the benefits is done. And then networking part, so it directly giving the access to the Ethernet switches, then you can go ahead with and directly do the calls to the Ethernet hardware, and whatever the operation you want to do, you can directly contact to them. So there will be different Ethernet cards attached to a particular server which is hosting the virtual machines, because thinking about the different bandwidth. So in this way we can have a very huge networking, and it can directly get connected to those. And also these kind of automation will help you to get your request approved much faster way also, because hypervisor was first of all processing it and then putting into some scheduling, and those benefits are getting whatever the tasks were done by the hypervisor, we have to automate those. And then virtual machines is we can manage the virtual machines by, like in cloud computing we are getting some console to manage those resources, and also you don't require to directly connect it to the hypervisor and do the manages. Now you can do it from some custom remote URLs, and also due to these benefits we removed, and we analyzed that yes, we can go for ahead with the removal of this particular hypervisor. And due to this reason only, that they basically removed all the hypervisors from the cloud computing. And then when we got the concept of AWS cloud, Azure cloud, when the cloud computing was very famous, and they picked up this concept and started giving it as a service, as a software as a service. They've started providing the cloud services as a service. This is the evolvement of the virtualization in the market, and how the virtualizations move to the cloud computing by removing the loopholes in the hypervisor, and by improving their software so that it should not be hacked on a particular public domain or something like that. So this is all about hypervisor and the virtualization and cloud computing. Thank you everyone.